You just caught your reflection in the hallway mirror, and your hair looked flat again, pressed to your scalp, thinner on top than you remember it being. You patted it, smoothed it down, and let out that little sigh you've been letting out for years now. Stop. Put your hand down, because the way you have been styling your fine hair is the exact thing making it look thinner. Not your age, not your genes, the styling, the rules you were handed decades ago and never once questioned. I know this because I followed those same rules for almost 30 years, and every single one of them was quietly working against me. Here is what I finally learned. Fine hair is not the problem. Fine hair worn the way a 1980s magazine told you to wear it is the problem. And once I found the buried salon techniques from the 1960s, the ones stylists used before the product companies rewrote everything, my hair looked fuller in one afternoon than it had in a decade. I still remember standing in my mother's old bathroom, using her can of stiff hairspray because that is what you were supposed to do, and wondering why my hair looked like a helmet with the scalp showing through anyway. It took me years to understand I had been taught backwards. None of what I am about to show you costs much. Most of it costs nothing. It works with the hair on your head right now, today, exactly the length it is. You do not need extensions. You do not need a keratin treatment. You do not need to be brave enough to chop it all off. You just need to stop obeying 5 rules that were never true. Let me start with the biggest one. The rule that has done more damage to fine hair over 60 than anything else, and it is the one almost every woman believes without question. The rule goes like this. When your hair gets thin, cut it short. Short hair looks fuller, long hair drags fine hair down and makes you look older. Every stylist says it, every friend repeats it. You have probably had it said to your face while sitting in the chair, cape around your neck, nodding along. Here is the truth that took me far too long to find. Short hair does not automatically look fuller. In many cases, it looks thinner, because a very short cut exposes more of your scalp to direct light, and it removes the very weight and movement that create the illusion of density. Let me explain what is actually happening, because the science here is simple and nobody bothers to tell us. Fine hair is a measurement, not a curse. A single fine strand is roughly 50 microns across. A coarse strand can be over 120 microns. That is the only difference. Fine hair is thinner per strand, so it reflects light differently and lies flatter against the head. It has nothing to do with how many hairs you have. You can have a full head of fine hair and it can look thin or thick, depending entirely on how it is cut and shaped. And this is where the short hair rule falls apart. When you cut fine hair very short all over, especially close on the top and crown, you strip away the layers of hair that would normally cast a shadow over the scalp. Light hits the skin directly. The scalp shines through. That is the flatness you see in the mirror. It is not that you have less hair. It is that you have arranged it to reveal your scalp instead of covering it. What actually creates fullness is something stylists call optical density. It is the shadow that hair casts over itself and over the scalp. More shadow reads as more hair, less shadow reads as thinning. A blunt, weighty edge holds a shadow, a wispy, over-thinned edge does not. So what do you do instead? You keep a little more length than they told you to. Chin length, collarbone length, even longer if you want it. And you ask for a blunt or near blunt bottom edge instead of feathery, razored, thinned out ends. Those thinned ends were the fashion, but on fine hair they are catastrophic because they take your already fine strands and shred them into transparency at the very place the eye is looking. I spent years asking for layers to add movement, and every haircut left me looking thinner than when I walked in. The day I asked for a strong, blunt line and just 2 soft layers around my face instead of 15 razored ones, I watched my own hair gain what looked like 20% more thickness before I even left the chair. Same hair, same head, different geometry. But here is what I could not stop asking myself once I saw it. If keeping length and weight makes fine hair look fuller, then who decided we all had to cut it off? Where did that rule even come from? Because somebody profited from it? And once I found out who, I was furious. Let me tell you what I dug up. The idea that older women must wear short hair is not ancient wisdom. It is not some timeless rule of elegance. It is barely 70 years old, and it was manufactured. Go back to the 1950s and 1960s. This was the era of the weekly salon appointment. The set, the roller, the sit-under dryer. Salons made steady money, keeping women coming back every single week for a wash and set, and shorter, sculpted styles needed constant professional upkeep. The short, mature cut was not sold to us because it flattered us. It was sold because it kept the chair full and the appointment book booked. Then the magazines caught up. By the 1960s and 70s, women's magazines had built an entire ladder of age-appropriate length. Long, loose hair belonged to the young. Then you were supposed to trade length for respectability decade by decade until, past a certain age, you were expected to arrive at the short, tidy, invisible style of a woman who had accepted she was no longer being looked at. Read that again. The rule was never about volume. It was about disappearing. It was a visual instruction to step back and stop taking up space. And the beauty industry loved it because a woman who believes her best looks are behind her is a woman who will buy whatever corrective product she is told to buy forever without ever asking why the last one did not work. I believed it completely. I cut my hair shorter and shorter through my 50s, thinking I was being sensible, thinking I was doing the mature and appropriate thing. And every year I felt a little more erased, and I blamed my age, when really I was following a marketing script written before I was even born. The moment that broke it open for me was seeing a photograph of women in their 60s and 70s from decades before that rule existed. Hair pinned up with soft volume, or worn long and swept back, full and present and dignified. Nobody had told them length was forbidden after a certain birthday, so nobody obeyed it. The rule was invented, which means it can be ignored. But cutting length was only the first way we were led astray. The second rule did its damage in the shower, and I promise you are doing it right now, tonight, without a second thought. Here is the rule. Your hair is dry and aging, so you need rich, heavy, moisturizing conditioner. Slather it on. The more nourishing, the better. Weigh it down with oils and thick creams to tame it and make it healthy. This one nearly ruined my hair, and it came from good intentions, which is what made it so hard to see. Yes, hair changes as we age. As estrogen drops after menopause, the oil our scalp produces changes. Individual strands can feel drier, and the hair shaft can become finer as follicles shrink over time. That part is real. So the industry sells us the same heavy, rich, moisturizing formulas designed for thick, coarse, curly hair and tells us fine, aging hair needs even more of it. But fine hair cannot carry that weight. Every heavy conditioner, every thick oil, every rich butter you press into fine hair coats the strand and drags it flat against your scalp. You rinse, you dry, and within an hour your hair has collapsed. You think, my hair is just thin now. No. Your hair is drowning in product built for someone else's head. Here is the science nobody puts on the bottle. Fine hair has less surface area and less internal structure to absorb heavy moisture, so those ingredients do not sink in, they sit on top, layer after layer, wash after wash, building up until your roots cannot lift at all. It is called product buildup, and on fine hair, it is the single most common cause of that flat, lifeless, scalp-showing look we blame on age. So here is what to do instead, and it costs you nothing but a change of habit. Stop putting conditioner on your roots and crown, ever. Condition only from the ears down, only the mid-lengths and ends, where hair is older and genuinely drier. Keep the roots clean and bare so they can stand up. Switch from a heavy, moisturizing, smoothing shampoo to a lightweight, volumizing one, and reach for products that say the word protein rather than the word oil. Fine hair is strengthened and thickened, temporarily but visibly, by light protein, which swells the strand slightly and helps it hold a shape. Heavy oils do the opposite. They flatten it, and once a week, use a clarifying wash to strip the buildup that has been quietly burying your volume. The first time I did this after years of rich conditioners, my hair felt startlingly light, almost squeaky, and I panicked that I had stripped it. Then it dried, and it lifted at the roots on its own for the first time in years. I nearly cried in the bathroom. All that flatness I had blamed on being over 60 was a coating I had been paying to apply. That was the moment I stopped trusting the label and started trusting the result. If you want to go even deeper into everything I have learned about reclaiming your style after 60, the cuts, the products, the techniques, and all the rules worth breaking, I have put it all together in my books, Style Reset, Style Deeper, and Styled Complete. Each one goes further than the last, and every page is written for the woman who is done being told her best chapter is behind her. You will find them linked in the description below. Now, back to the tools and the techniques, because that is where the third rule lives, and this is the one that costs you absolutely nothing to fix. I want to speak now directly to the woman who is watching this and thinking, this is fine for women with money, women who can buy new products and book new salons, but I cannot afford to change a thing. I hear you. And this next part is for you specifically, because the most powerful volume technique I know does not cost 1 penny. It uses only your own 2 hands, your own hair, and the dryer you already own. You could do it 5 minutes from now. Here is the rule you were taught. Dry your hair the way it falls. Brush it down, smooth it flat, aim the dryer down the length of the strand to make it sleek and neat. That instruction is why your hair is flat. You have been training it morning after morning to lie down in the exact direction that hides its own fullness. Volume does not come from the length of the hair. It comes from the angle of the root. A strand of hair that leaves your scalp at a low, flat angle lies down and shows scalp. The very same strand, lifted to leave your scalp at a high angle, stands up and casts a shadow and looks twice as full. Nothing about the hair changed, only the angle at the root. So here is what you do tonight, for free. Flip your head upside down. Let all your hair fall toward the floor. Now dry it like that, roughly, with your fingers, moving against the direction it normally lies. You are lifting every root away from your scalp and drying it in the lifted position so it sets there. When you flip back up, do not brush it flat. Just shape it with your fingers. You will not believe the height. Second free trick, change your part. Most of us have parted our hair in the same place for 30 or 40 years, and the hair has learned to fall flat along that line, memorizing the collapse. Move the part an inch to the other side, or push it to the opposite side entirely. The hair now has to cross over and fight gravity, and it stands up at the root because it does not know how to lie down that way. Instant lift, no product, no cost, just relearning a habit you did not know you had. Third, when your hair is almost dry and still warm, hit it with the cool shot button on your dryer, the one you have ignored your whole life. Heat makes hair moldable. Cool sets the shape in place. If you lift a section at the root, blast it with cool air for a few seconds. That lift locks in and holds for hours. Warm to shape, cool to set. That is the whole secret professionals use, and it is a free button you already own. I taught my sister these 3 things at her kitchen table, and she did not spend a single dollar, and she looked 10 years younger by the time her coffee was cold. She kept touching her own crown like she could not believe it was staying up. So no, this is not only for women with money. The best of it is free. It always was. They just never taught us how to use our own hands. But even after you have the length right, the products right, and the technique right, there's a 4th rule that sabotages fine hair. And this one is sneaky, because it disguises itself as something good. It disguises itself as healthy. Here is the rule, and I believed it my whole life. Shiny hair is healthy hair. The shinier, the better. Glossy, gleaming, reflective. That is the goal. That is what all the advertisements show you. Hair that shines like glass. For thick hair, fine. But for fine hair over 60, high shine is quietly betraying you, and here is why. Think about how light works. A smooth, shiny surface reflects light in one direction, in a bright line. When fine hair is pulled flat and glossy, that reflection runs straight down your head and lights up your scalp along the part in the crown, announcing every gap and every thin spot to the world. Shine on sparse hair does not read as healthy. It reads as thin, because it shows the skin underneath. This goes back to that idea of optical density I mentioned earlier. A matte or softly textured surface scatters light in many directions instead of one. Scattered light creates the appearance of more mass, more strands, more shadow. It hides the scalp instead of spotlighting it. So the very thing we chase, glass-like shine, is the thing making our hair look thinner. Once I understood this, everything about the glossy serums and shine sprays I had been buying suddenly made sense. They were making my hair look healthier in the bottle and thinner on my head. So what do you do instead? You add a little texture, not grease, not dirt, texture. A light dusting of dry shampoo, even on clean hair, adds grip and a soft matte finish that makes fine hair behave like it has more body. It swells the space between strands. It lifts the root. It turns slippery, flat, shine, collapsed hair into hair with structure. I use a little at the roots even on a fresh wash day, purely for the texture and the lift, and it is one of the cheapest products on the shelf. A soft, tousled, matte finish will always look fuller than a flat, shiny, sleek one on fine hair. Always. The magazines sold us glass hair because glass hair photographs beautifully under studio lights on models with thick manes. On our hair, in our bathrooms, it does the opposite of what we want. And here's where it gets interesting, because texture and matte finish are also the doorway into the last secret. The one I saved for the end. The one that pulled everything together for me and made me realize that the answer to fuller hair was written down and then deliberately forgotten. Because everything I have told you so far, the length, the products, the angle, the texture, all of it is really pointing at one buried principle. And once you know it, you will never look at your hair the same way again. Let me take you back to the salons of the 1960s. This was the era when a man named Vidal Sassoon changed hair forever. He threw out the stiff, sprayed, weakly set styles and built cuts based on the actual geometry of the head, precision cutting, shapes that fell into place on their own. And in those salons, the master stylists used a technique that has almost completely vanished from the way we are taught to style our hair at home. It is called overdirection. Here is what it means, and here is why it is the secret that changes everything for fine hair. Overdirection is the practice of drying and setting your hair in the opposite direction from where it naturally wants to fall, so that when it settles back into place, it lands with lift built into the root instead of lying flat. You do not aim the hair where you want it to end up. You aim it past that point in the wrong direction, so gravity brings it back with volume instead of pulling it down into flatness. Think of it like this. If you want your hair to sit up and back off your face, you do not dry it up and back. You dry it forward and down, over-directing it, then let it fall back. The root has been lifted and trained away from the scalp, so when the hair returns to its natural position, it can no longer lie flat. It rests on a cushion of lifted roots. That is where real, lasting, all-day volume comes from. Not from teasing, not from spray, from direction. The old masters knew this. They over-directed every section, lifting each piece away from its natural fall before setting it, so the whole head sat on invisible support. And then the wash-and-go era arrived. Product companies took over the conversation, and they replaced this free, skill-based technique with something they could sell you in a bottle. Mousse arrived in the early 1980s. Hairsprays multiplied, volumizing potions filled the shelves. Why teach a woman a technique she can do forever for free when you can sell her a can she has to replace every month? So the technique faded. Our mothers half remembered it. We never learned it at all. We were handed the bottle instead of the skill. Here is how you use overdirection this weekend, with nothing but your dryer and a round brush, or even just your fingers. Take the hair at your crown, the flattest, most scalp-revealing zone. Instead of drying it back and down the way it naturally falls, lift that section straight up, 90 degrees away from your scalp, and even pull it slightly forward toward your forehead as you dry the roots. Aim the dryer at the root, not the ends. Hold it up and dry it in that lifted, over-directed position. Then hit it with your cool shot to set it. Let it fall back naturally. That crown will now sit high, full, and shadowed, hiding the scalp that used to shine through. Do the same at your sides. If your hair falls flat against your head at the temples, over-direct it upward and back as you dry, past where you want it, then let it settle. It comes to rest with body underneath. It takes a few extra minutes. It costs nothing. And it is the single closest thing to instant, believable fullness I have ever found, because it is not a trick of product sitting on top of your hair. It is your actual hair retrained to stand where it used to lie. The first morning I did this properly, over-directing every section the way those old stylists did, I stood in front of the mirror and did not recognize my own crown. It was full. It was lifted. It cast a soft shadow instead of shining bare. And it had cost me nothing but the willingness to dry my hair the wrong way, the way I had been taught never to do. That is the whole cruel joke of it. The techniques that make fine hair look fullest were free. They were known, and they were buried under 60 years of products and rules designed to keep us buying and keep us small. Someone figured out how to make our hair beautiful. Then someone else figured out how to sell us the flatness and charge us for the cure. Let me gather all 5 of these together for you, because I want you to walk away holding every one. First, do not blindly cut it short. Keep length and weight. Ask for a blunt edge instead of shredded, razored ends, and let your hair cast the shadow that reads as fullness. The short hair rule was a salon and magazine invention, not a law of nature. Second, stop drowning your fine hair in heavy conditioners and oils built for thick hair. Condition the ends only, keep the roots bare, reach for light protein instead of heavy moisture, and clarify weekly to lift the buildup that has been flattening you for years. Third, and free forever, change the angle of your roots. Dry upside down, move your part to the opposite side, and set the lift with the cool shot button you have never used. Volume lives in the angle of the root, not the length of the strand. Fourth, stop chasing glass-like shine. On fine hair, high shine reflects light straight onto your scalp and announces every thin spot. A soft, matte, textured finish scatters light, hides the scalp, and reads as far more hair. And fifth, the buried one, overdirection. Dry every section away from where it naturally falls. Lift each root past its resting place. Set it cool and let it settle onto a cushion of built-in volume. The masters of the 1960s knew it. The product companies made us forget it. Now it is yours again. None of this requires money. None of it requires a younger face or thicker hair or a braver personality. It requires only that you stop obeying the rules that were designed to make you disappear and start using the truths that were hidden to keep you buying. I think about the woman I was, standing in that bathroom with the stiff hairspray, blaming my birthdays for something that was never my age's fault. I wish I could go back and tell her, it was never you. It was never your hair. It was the instructions. Here's what I want you to feel right now. You did not lose your fullness. It was taken from you, one rule at a time, and today you took it back. You are not a woman whose best looks are behind her. You are a woman who just found out she was lied to, and who is done playing along. That is a very different kind of woman, and she does not fade into the background at any age. So, tell me, which of these rules did you follow the longest? Was it cutting it short because someone told you that you had to? Was it the heavy conditioner you have used faithfully for years? I truly want to know, so leave me a comment and tell me which one you are letting go of first. And tell me where in the world you are watching from, because I love seeing how far this reaches. If you are done being told your elegance expired on some birthday, then come stand with the rest of us who refuse to believe it. Subscribe and join the women who are quietly taking all of it back, one buried truth at a time. Because next, I am going to show you the one thing about hair color after 60 that every salon gets wrong, the shade they keep steering you toward that is actually washing you out and aging you, and the unexpected one that makes your skin look lit from within. You already own the mirror to test it. I cannot wait to hand that one over too. Until then, dry your hair the wrong way on purpose and watch what happens. It was never your age. It was only ever the rules. You just caught yourself sighing at that mirror again. So let me help. Honestly, this video only scratched the surface. Inside the timeless elegance circle, I pick up right where I stopped here. You can ask me your own question, and I answer you myself, never a robot. You'll belong among elegant women just like you. Just point your phone's camera at the code on screen, and you can cancel anytime. If this helped you, do subscribe and stay with me here. I have many more simple hair tips just like these, made especially for you, and I would love to keep helping.